Well, hello there, and welcome to Hunt Week on Gunfighter Life. It's that time of year again. Time to get out in the wild places, the purple mountains above the fruited plain, the forests, the swamps, and hopefully put meat on the table. Hopefully you're into hunting, or at least interested in hunting, because that's going to be the subject of today's and this week's episode. Some will be new, and so you don't have to go rummaging around for it. Some will be reloaded content. I hope to be out there myself, and God willing, when you're listening to this, maybe I'll be doing some butchering. So please enjoy this hunting content on Gunfighter Life. What's going on, tribe? So this is something I've been ruminating on for a couple of main thoughts here that I want to kind of congeal as I'm talking to you. I think it might be time to rebrand hunting. A long time ago, hunting, like turn of the 20th century, there was a lot of market hunting. Like market hunting was like shooting a bunch of ducks for the feathers to make pillows. It was seen like a resource like trees are or were, for timber. Basically just a raw resource to be mined, for lack of a better term. Harvested, I guess is a better term. And then we got into the sport hunting. I'm not a big fan of the term sport hunting. I would much prefer the term meat hunting or hunting for food. Now, I'm not going to lie, I enjoy hunting. I like hunting for hunting's sake, even if I don't get anything. But I don't know that the sport hunting appeals to a lot of people. Perhaps it's putting a lot of the younger generation off. Perhaps we need to market it a different way as far as like sustainably harvested, free range, better quality of life food, right? Would you rather have a cow that, is shoved full of grain in a CAFO and standing in its own feces and then killed and eaten? Or chickens that live their whole life, cooped up in a pen surrounded by other chickens, barely able to get fresh air? Because my best friend grew up on a chicken farm. Like I'm familiar with the practice. Pumped full of drugs and antibiotics so they don't die of infection because their environment's so nasty? Or would you rather go out on the landscape and see a deer eating in the wild up until the time that it's ready to be harvested, and then you shoot it and it's dead and you go harvest it for good, organic, sustainable food? Right? I think that's a better way maybe to market it than sport hunting. Oh, look at what a great sport it is. The other big issue I have with the sport hunting, which got me thinking about doing this, is there's a lot of hype in the gun world. So much so that I've gotten so jaded to it, I almost don't want to do the podcast sometimes, because it's gotten to the point where some people think to go hunting, you need some super long-range rifle, and people look at that and are like, well, if I don't have this super long-range rifle with a custom chassis and free-floated and bedded and the latest, 100 feet per second faster cartridge with a better BC, and I don't have this giant optic, and I don't have a scope, let alone a high-powered scope with all these widgets and dials and gadgets and all this stuff. And if I don't have, nowadays they're trying to push thermals as if you need that. If I don't have this and I don't have that, then I might as well not even bother going hunting. Meanwhile, there's poor rednecks in the South that have been putting meat on the table for hundreds of years, literally, with single-shot shotguns that you can get at Walmart for $100, $150, under $200. All day, every day. Like, you don't need that stuff. And to realize that what is marketed to you is sport hunting, not survival hunting, right? Sport hunting is going out with a fancy vest and a fancy dog and shooting quail out of the air. And there's nothing wrong with that. I like that too. But that's sport hunting. Survival hunting would be going out, finding the quail in the bush, shooting the quail in the bush so you get more quail with less shooting. That's survival hunting or food hunting. Sport hunting is, I'm going to run around and do all this calling and And because the law says, and I'm not telling you to break the law, I'm just saying this is how it's written, I got to use a certain size shot with a certain type of shotgun to take a turkey. When survival hunting would be find the turkey in the roost, shoot the turkey out of the roost, get the turkey. Right? Survival hunting, is different than sport hunting. Sport hunting would be, let me spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a boat and decoys and get these ducks to come in and let me shoot them. And survival hunting is just walking up on a creek or on a pond and shooting the ducks while they're sitting there and then going and getting the ducks and eating them. That's food hunting, survival hunting versus sport hunting. You don't need thousands of dollars of decoys to shoot ducks, right? Right? You just don't. It's a little. If you want to do that, that's fine. If that's a hobby, that's fine. Look at it like fishing, which is much in the same thing. You don't need a $50,000 bass boat and a depth finder and all this stuff to catch a bass, right? You need a line and a hook and a worm if you want, or a bug that you dug up out of the ground, and a 10-cent hook. That's what you need to catch a fish. You don't need a $50,000 boat. And I think a lot of people are kind of put off of it, thinking if I'm doing it for food, if I'm doing it to feed my family, I don't want to spend $5,000 on a rifle, which you can easily do, to go shoot a deer. If it doesn't take me long to do the math to figure out it's easier for me to just go to the store and buy a chicken, right? Or buy eggs or buy beef. Heck, for that price, you could even buy, organic grass-fed beef. But you don't need that to hunt a deer, especially not if you're hunting, right? You don't need to pass up the 5 deer you scared on your way to go hunting to wait for that one deer at 600 yards so you can brag to all your buddies about how you shot a deer at 600 yards. Again, that's sport hunting, and if you want to do that, that's fine. But you can take that single-shot shotgun, put in a slugger buckshot, and hunt all kinds of stuff, including that deer. And if you have good fieldcraft, probably more successful than the guy that's got all the crazy whiz-bang gidget stuff. Because I've seen it. You just don't need it to hunt deer. Now, again, if you want to, I've got some nice rifles. That's fine. But I'll be the first to admit, you don't need that to kill a deer. So perhaps it's time to rebrand. And if you're doing it for survival, you're doing yourself a severe handicap if you think of hunting the way that people hunt today for sport, because that's sport hunting. You're making it hard, right? Going out at a very select time of the year, going out in November, right, to hunt the biggest, smartest, strongest of the species for sport, to put antlers up on a wall. Again, nothing wrong with that, but that's sport. If you're hunting for survival, you hunt the weaker, you hunt the older, you hunt, the yearlings. 1, because they taste better. 2, because it's less meat to deal with at once. 3, because they're easier to kill. You get the idea, right? Sport hunting is different than survival hunting, is different than food hunting. And there are some places back east where there's so many deer, they're having massive disease issues with things like Lyme disease and alpha-gal. You never heard, there was never Lyme disease and stuff growing up. That's a fairly recent thing in the U.S. CWD, right? That's a real recent thing because the population densities are so high. The disease just spreads so rapidly. And a lot of these places, the East Coast, the Midwest, I've heard it said, and I believe it, there's more deer now than when Columbus landed. There's deer all over the place. And I think it's time to rebrand the hunting thing and do it for meat instead of you telling somebody or marketing it that you need a several $1,000 rifle and you need to go shoot this buck with a big rack so you can hang horns on your wall. Which, again, if you want to do that, that's fine. But if you don't, if you just want the meat, it's kind of the wrong way to market to people. And it's the wrong way for you to think about it if you're doing it for survival, if you're doing it for good food. Not even because you have to do it, because you want really good food that you got yourself. And I think that's a better marketing strategy and to me more ethical. Good to put good food on the table that you got for your family yourself, rather than all the marketing hype of you need this crazy stuff to shoot an animal that we've been hunting before that with pointy sticks. Right? It's gotten a little ridiculous. Maybe it's time to rethink the whole hunting, fishing thing. And again, if you like the sport aspect of it, that's great. I like it too, but realize it for what it is, a sport, right? much like golf, right? I don't like golf, but if you look at golf practically, if I want the ball in the hole and I have to walk to the hole anyway, why don't I just walk up with the ball and drop it in the hole, and then I'm done, and then I can go do something I want to do for the rest of the day. If you look at it practically, realize what you're doing for golf is for sport. You're making it hard. If you wanted the ball in the hole, you would just grab the ball, walk into the hole, and drop it in. If you're doing it because you want to do some kind of ritual sport thing, which again is fine, but if you look at it pragmatically, I want the ball in the hole and I have to walk to the hole anyway, just walk up and put the ball in the hole and do whatever you want to do the rest of the day. If you want deer for meat, go hunt deer for meat. You don't need all the crazy stuff that goes along with the sport. Anyway, just some thoughts on that. With that, guys, I appreciate you. I appreciate all that you do. Archery is a beautiful thing, a beautiful pastime, a beautiful martial skill to have. Compound bows, realize talking about sport, compound bows are for sport, not for survival, for many reasons that I'm not going to get into right now. But the tactical tip is going to be about compound bows. Those are specifically tailor-made for sport hunting. But the thing about them is they're not like guns, right? They didn't hit there's not really this plateau. They get better and better every year. They get a little bit faster. They get a little bit sleeker. They get a little bit whatever every year. There's always like the new hot thing if you're not familiar with bows. There is that in rifles too, but really in bows, like I got a little bit faster, a little bit better in the last year's model. Anyway, for you, first you got to realize that the bow has to fit you, right? It's not one size fits all. It's not like the guns aren't one size fits all either, but like pretty much anybody can pick up a 10-22 and shoot it. Bows have to be fitted to you, especially a compound bow. You realize that, get your measurements, but then you can really save a lot of money, like going on eBay or Facebook Marketplace or something like that and getting a bow that's a couple, 3-4 years old, right? That shouldn't matter to you if you're going out for food. And a lot of places, archery hunting is a lot more liberal season. It's got a lot longer season. So if you're looking for an affordable way and you want a good bow, right, one that came out 5 years ago is not obsolete. It's just fine. It's way better than what bows they were hunting with hundreds of years ago and they were hunting with for thousands of years, and they kill deer. So if you're looking to save money, again, and if you look at it pragmatically as, meat cost ratio, look for, a 4 or 5 year old bow. It's going to be 20-30% slower than the new bow. So, it's inconsequential to you in the field, really. Especially when you're new. That's not what's going to cause you to get or lose a deer, probably. It's going to be your field craft. So looking for a little bit older bow to save money, that's your tactical tip of the day. Your tactical verse of the day. It's Proverbs. It's a lazy man does not roast what he took in hunting, but diligence is a man's precious possession. With that, men, thanks for listening and have a blessed day.